Today we got to talk about Oklahoma seeking a waiver to play a game early against Missouri State. And all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, we need to talk about Barry Trammell's report in the Oklahoman this morning, where Oklahoma is seeking a waiver from the NCAA to play its game against Missouri State, not on September 5th, but on August 29th. Almost said October, goodness me. That would be a huge move for a number of reasons. One, Oklahoma fans and big-time college football fans would get a game that they actually want to see, and it would be played a little bit early in that week 0 slate of games where the best teams being featured like Hawaii and Arizona. But more than that, it gives Oklahoma some cushion here when it comes to testing. If you have, say, a player that is positive, then you might have to isolate that player, and through contact tracing, you might actually have to isolate an entire group of players. For example, if a wide receiver were to test positive, you might actually have to quarantine the entire wide receiver group depending on where he was tested and where he was talking to people and all of these things that really can just fan out really quickly. But Joe Constiglione spoke with Trammell in his column saying, hey, we don't even know if they're going to let us do this. We don't know if the NCAA is going to let us play this game early and move it. We don't know if we're going to have fans in the stands. We don't even know if we're going to be able to play the games. But they are taking every step that they can to try to ensure that they do as much as they possibly can to be sure that when it comes time to probably play football, that Oklahoma is in a great position to play football. Of course, this comes just hours, like not even 24 hours, after Kevin Warren announced that the Big Ten is going with a conference-only slate of games this season. Now, that removes a bunch of marquee matchups like Michigan at Ohio, or Michigan at Washington, Ohio State at Oregon, and on it goes. But what it really does is allow for the Big Ten to schedule within its own office games that they want to prioritize, like Ohio State, Michigan, to make sure they get that game in, and also give them some cushion for if they have to make up games. And this is what is really proliferating throughout the conferences. While the Pac-12 is expected to announce that they're going to go to a conference-only slate, the ACC is expected to, but they also haven't had a vote to go to a conference-only slate, and the SEC is holding steady, as is the Big 12. Everybody's in some agreement about the more time in between games that we can have, the better off they feel about being able to play games, because with the quarantine taking at least 14 days, right? 10 to 14 days has been generally what is used. 14 days has been what most people are using to isolate the positive test in time for that to either get better or get worse, and then be able to put that person back into the general population of a functioning team. It sounds smart. It also sounds like everybody is trying to figure this out on the fly. I applaud Joe Constiglione and Lincoln Riley because they have been pretty well lockstep in what they're going to do, and they've been very, very proactive in what they want to do and how they want to do it. Also, I love the idea of trying to get in as many football games as you possibly can before the flu season actually hits in late October, early November, and into December and January. Hopefully by January we have a vaccine, and then we're talking about actually getting out and mingling and how we're going to distribute those vaccines and whatnot. But this also comes at a time when we are hearing athletic directors say, look, we are trying to play as many football games as we possibly can. Keyword there is trying. We had another athletic director say, hey, a football season that doesn't happen, say in the fall or the spring, which is on the table, is Armageddon for so many programs. But you're also talking about the college football playoff, where Kevin Warren did inform Bill Hancock at the college football playoff that they're moving to a conference-only slate. Hancock has said, look, we're going to go on with our duty and our job, which is to say that right now we're all planning on a college football playoff, but right now we're all planning on a college football season. Each day, that looks more likely as more things go by the wayside, and we're seeing this slow drip of bad news. Started with the Ivy League announcing that they're moving their spring football, or moving to spring football, and basically canceling fall sports. We have other schools that are saying we're going to make decisions on fall sports here pretty quickly, but it's looking less likely like we're going to have, one, fans in the stands, and two, a full-fledged college football season, because it would be the SEC and the Big 12 right now that are the only ones that we think are going to play all 12 games on their schedule. But seeing as the SEC and the Big 10 both have, SEC and the Big 12 both have games on their schedule that go across conferences, it could be a choice that's made for them. Like Oklahoma, Tennessee is intact, but that's only because SEC and Big 12 haven't made a decision just yet. As for Oklahoma Army, right now, I can't see how that game is going to happen because Oklahoma is on a traveler's list where if you come from Oklahoma to the state of New York, according to the governor of New York, you have to quarantine for 14 days before you can travel about the state. Oklahoma plays Tennessee on September 12th. 14 days later, they're supposed to play Army. So you have to hope and pray that Oklahoma, the state of, gets under the threshold for the amount of cases for Oklahomans to be able to travel as soon as they land in New York to go to that game. And right now, Army wants to play football because they are structured in such a way that they can't make up a football game in the spring because the cadets' 47-month experience stays on the calendar in the way that it's supposed to stay. One more thing to add in here. The amount of uncertainty in all of this is what we are going to have to get comfortable with. We're going to have to get very, very comfortable with this idea of moving and shaking, of being very, very nimble and being mobile. And that's the real reason as to why the Big Ten already made this 3-week early decision, I think, to say we're going to go conference only so that we can allow ourselves to be as nimble as we possibly can. We can start getting to work on what a schedule might look like. And if something changes, we can change with it because it's real easy to run all of your decisions through one office at a time when there is no central governing body for college football. So the conferences are acting as their own fiefdoms. And because they're acting as their own fiefdoms, they're going to experience, one, different levels of leadership, and two, what goes on in the Northeast doesn't go on in the South. So the idea of the SEC and, say, the Big Ten doing the same thing together was always going to be hard because the conditions, both climate-wise and politically, are just different, right? Same thing in the West Coast with the Pac-12. Climate and political, it's just different. So I'm interested to see how this all comes out because college football has done a very bad job of working together on this thing. Kevin Warren apparently didn't tell anybody he was going to make that decision among the conference commissioners and just give them a brief heads up. And then we end up right where we are, which is a place of not just uncertainty, but how many of these guys actually trust each other? And how many of these folks are actually testing in the same possible way? Like OU and Missouri State have agreed on how they're going to test, and they've agreed on their protocols, but that's only OU and Missouri State. Who's to say that Oklahoma and Tennessee will get along? I hope that they will. And then if you look at Oklahoma's Big 12 schedule, they start with Baylor in September the following week. They start with Baylor. So, it's all changing, right? But the idea of the headline here, Oklahoma trying to get a game off on August 29th, still stands, and I could definitely see that being a good thing as opposed to a bad thing. I also can see it might not happen because the NCAA might not let it happen. That said, the NCAA has thrown its hands up and shown that it's not going to be a leader in any of this, saying we're going to leave it up to y'all to make your decisions. We were looking for leadership. I'm looking for a Harry Stamper, somebody to actually go up there and drill that hole in that rock and drop that nuke in and blow it up and save the world, and we're coming up short. Show me who the Harry Stamper is in college football. I will get behind him. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.